Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay Trelease in New Jersey. It's a pretty good morning so far. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully it will stay that way. The northbound side of the New Jersey Turnpike moving well, both the eastern and western spur. Parkway good, Route 22 and 78 okay, and Route 80 building just a little bit in through 513, but for the most part moves well all the way in through the George Washington Bridge. No problems at the Hudson River crossings. North of the city in Westchester County, things are moving very nicely here on the Tappan Zee Bridge. No speed reduction this morning. The southbound Sawmill to Connick, Bronx River Parkway, Hutch, they're all looking good as they make their way down in through the city line. In the Bronx, pretty much the same, little bit of volume on the Cross Bronx Expressway around 3rd Avenue, but really not too bad. Bruckner moves well in through the Hunts Point Drawbridge. Deegan okay, no reported delays as we check out mass transit this morning, and so far so good. As far as alternate side is concerned, they are suspended, those rules, this morning. So we'll have more traffic in 10 minutes when we come back, or when I come back, at news, weather, and sports on the way. Channel 2 News this morning.
Good morning, everyone. On this Tuesday, the 20th day of January, I'm Lisa Rudolph.
And I'm Maury Alter. These stories topping our news this morning. It's party time in D.C. as the nation's capital celebrates the swearing in of the 42nd president. A star-studded gala last night gave tribute to President-elect Bill Clinton.
Saddam Hussein calls a ceasefire in honor of the new president. Still, U.S. planes continue to fly surveillance missions over Iraq. And a partial settlement in a bitter custody battle that all of America has watched. Woody Allen and Mia Farrow strike a deal over the kids.
Plus, we've got the latest on traffic with Jay Trelease, and Craig Allen has the latest on the weather. Craig.
All right, Maury, a bright day here in NYC and a big day in D.C. coming up. Same bright, sunny weather. All the details to follow. Lisa?
All right, Craig. Bill Clinton wakes up this morning a private citizen.
But when this day is over, he will be president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world.
And as Carol Martin reports from Washington, Mr. Clinton spent the night before his inauguration at a party with a few thousand of his closest friends.
A select few thousand held hottest ticket, the presidential inaugural gala, televised on CBS from Capitol Center in Maryland. Cost of admission, $100 to $1,000 each ticket. But what a show. Earlier on his last day as a private citizen, Clinton himself was either keeping a dizzying schedule or his likeness was doing brisk business for souvenir hunters.
It'll be fun to wear it, and it's a little expensive. Have you noticed that? It's $7 for the book.
The cost of the 5-day American reunion celebration here is tabbed at $20 million at least. 10% of that cost is generated right here, and anything could be valuable.
We love Bill. He's paying for my college tuition right now. He doesn't even know it. It's amazing.
And from mementos to memories, a day-long celebration for children and youth here at Kennedy Center brought the first couple out for an unusual matchup. Mr. Rogers, Bill, Kermit the Frog, and Hillary. Fun was the prize here, but the underlying message was proving that children and their welfare will be top priority for both Clintons in their most challenging public service roles. As for President Bush and his family, they entertained the Reverend Billy Graham for a quiet dinner at home on this final night in office. From Washington, I'm Carol Martin, Channel 2 News.
And today, a full day is planned for the inaugural festivities, starting at 8 this morning when President Bush and his wife Barbara received the nation's incoming first couple at the White House. Then at 11:30, the inaugural ceremony itself begins. Vice President Al Gore and President-elect Bill Clinton both taking the oath of office in front of the Capitol. Mr. Clinton will then deliver his inaugural address. At 2:30, ceremony gives way to celebration, beginning with the inaugural parade, the route linking the Capitol to the White House, and the festivities continue through the night. From 6:30 to 9, a gala reception will be held at the Sheraton Carlton Hotel, and at 7 o'clock, the National Ball kicks off at the National Building Museum. Now stay with us right here on Channel 2 for coverage of all of the inaugural events. CBS will be live all day from Washington, and at 1 o'clock, there will be local coverage from Channel 2 News with live reports from Carol Martin and Tony Guida in Washington. Maury?
And with U.S. warplanes flying over Iraq, Mr. Clinton will be the first new president in nearly a quarter of a century to take office with American troops on combat duty. Now here's the latest on the Gulf crisis. Saddam has called a ceasefire, stopping all attacks on Allied planes in the no-fly zone. But U.S. planes will continue to fly surveillance missions in both northern and southern Iraq. And the UN says it will resume weapons inspections as soon as possible. Tony Guida has more.
In view of the fact that a new president will assume responsibility in the United States, the Revolutionary Command Council has decided on a ceasefire.
Saddam Hussein, a veteran spin doctor who regularly tries to portray defeat as victory, offered to make peace with Bill Clinton, never intimating he'd been beaten by George Bush. Saddam declared a ceasefire starting at midnight in both the northern and southern no-fly zones. The southern zone is already quiet. The Pentagon claims to have knocked out the air defenses that threatened American warplanes.
There are a few radars still left, but the system doesn't function anymore as a radar or as an air defense network.
In the north, however, two more incidents. Iraqi radar locked onto an American F-4 jet. The warplane fired on the radar and missile site. And two F-16 pilots reported being fired on by the Iraqis. They bombed the artillery site.
In northern Iraq, we are now in a posture where we're hitting back at their air defense and anti-aircraft artillery sites that are shooting at coalition aircraft.
Assuming Saddam means what he says, always a risky assumption, the shooting will soon stop. But his olive branch was not enough for Bill Clinton. In an exclusive interview with CBS's Dan Rather, the incoming president said Saddam must comply fully with all requirements of the UN resolutions.
My view is that it is almost inconceivable that we can have good relations with Iraq with him there, because he has given no indication that he is capable of being a reliable member of the community of nations.
Tony Guida, Channel 2 News.
There's also word from the United Nations this morning. Iraq is backing down on an issue that's been an obstacle in relations with the Allied forces. The head of the UN inspection team says Baghdad has now given assurances that UN inspection planes will be safe in Iraqi skies.
It means that we can start our flights as soon as we in the Commission deem it feasible.
UN inspectors are responsible for finding and destroying Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. Officials say UN flights to Iraq could resume as early as tomorrow.
Besides Iraq, Mr. Clinton will have another headache to worry about when he takes office: possible misconduct by his FBI director. William Sessions this morning says he didn't do anything wrong, despite government documents that show he did. The Justice Department yesterday released a report saying Sessions has been reprimanded for possible ethics violations. According to this report, the FBI director has been ordered to pay back the Treasury for personal expenses he improperly billed to the government. And President-elect Clinton's choice for Attorney General says she'll never break the law again. Zoe Baird went before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday, offering up an apology. Baird has come under fire for having hired illegal immigrants to take care of her young son. The couple from Peru worked for the Bairds for 2 years. That's a violation of federal law. The Senate Judiciary Committee still appears inclined to approve Baird's nomination. Several other Clinton cabinet appointees won committee approval yesterday, and they should win final approval after Clinton is sworn in.
On Long Island, the indictment against the man accused of kidnapping Katie Beers is expected to be unsealed today, revealing details of Katie's account of her 16 days underground. Also today, there will be a custody hearing to determine where and with whom Katie will live. John Esposito arrived in court yesterday for a short hearing. Prosecutors announced Esposito's being indicted, but details were not released at that time. The Associated Press is reporting Katie told police Esposito began kissing her, then put her in the concrete tomb in his carport. She also reportedly said Esposito touched her in sexual ways. Woody Allen and Mia Farrow have reached a partial agreement in their bitter custody battle. The two met last night with investigators at Yale New Haven Hospital, who are looking into the sex abuse charges against Allen. The deal calls for Allen to have visitation rights with the couple's biological son, Satchel. It also calls for their adopted daughter, Dylan, to resume therapy. Allen is still fighting for permanent custody of those two children, as well as another adopted son, Moses.
6:08. Good morning, Jay Trelease.
Good morning, Jay.
You look lovely this morning.
Thank you,
Oh,
Jay.
favorite colors.
How are you?
Very good, very good. We got
My new best friend.
all right. I like that.
Old best friend.
It's not too bad out there in the Bronx. We have a stalled vehicle southbound on the Bruckner Expressway coming in through 138th Street. Hardly a delay, though, caused by that situation. Only a minor backup, really not that bad. Elsewhere in the Bronx, on the Cross Bronx Expressway around 3rd Avenue, a little bit of volume there. We had some earlier construction. That's been cleared. Southbound side of the Deegan is moving well as we head on down in through the George Washington Bridge, right on down in through the Triborough Bridge this morning. So far, so good on the Whitestone and the Throgs Neck bridges. Things are moving very, very nicely there. Out in Nassau County, the normal activity beginning to develop. The westbound LIE a bit slow coming in through the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway and then heavy again in through Glen Cove Road. Not a bad stretch, though, as we head in through the city. Northern State actually moving very nicely through the Meadowbrook, right on in through the Grand Central Parkway. The Southern State and Sunrise Highway looking good. In Queens, the westbound LIE beginning to build normal spots in through the Clearview. Some delays coming in through the Tanks. Grand Central Parkway heavy in through the 160s. Don't forget, alternate side suspended today. And my good buddy, Craig Allen.
All right, Jay, and we have ourselves a bright sunny day coming up. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is the 3rd day in a row. We haven't done that all winter, I don't think. Temperatures today are also going to get milder than the last few. As you can see on this satellite photograph, a nice cutout. All that green, that's just the land showing there, a cutout in the clouds. And it's not only here, but much of the Northeast and Washington, D.C. will be bathed in sunshine today as well. Forecast calls for highs near or a little over 40 degrees today with bright sunshine. And then for tonight, we're dropping down to around 30 in the city. Next 5-day forecast is going to show the temperatures will stay fairly mild. We have increasing clouds for Thursday, a chance of rain Friday, clearing out for Saturday, maybe a little more precipitation around here on Sunday. But today, beauty. Temperatures up around 40 degrees. Lisa, Maury?
That's what we want to hear. Thank you, Craig.
Looks great. I'm going to go out and go for a walk. Sports is next. The rain when it gets lighter.
Okay.
The Rangers face a little brighter future as they unveil their newest weapon in their war on the ice.
And in entertainment news, a look at whether Jean-Claude Van Damme's muscle-bound movie is showing strength at the box office. We'll be right back. And on this Inauguration Day, a live picture of the Statue of Liberty this morning, 28 degrees, 13 minutes after 6 o'clock. Good morning once again. I'm Lisa Rudolph, and here are the stories topping the news for you this morning. President-elect Clinton is getting ready this morning to be sworn in as the nation's 42nd president. He'll take the oath of office at noon. In honor of the new president, Saddam Hussein has declared a ceasefire and agreed to comply with UN demands. The ceasefire went into effect at midnight. And a partial deal is now in effect between Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. Allen will now have visitation rights to the couple's biological son, Satchel, and their adopted daughter, Dylan, will resume therapy.
Medical researchers this morning are saying there may be a link between ovulation and ovarian cancer. A new study finds that women are at lower risk of the disease if they have taken birth control pills or have been pregnant or are breastfeeding, all factors that suppress ovulation. The findings are reported in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute.
Another candidate for the Giants' head coaching job just says no, and a Ranger rookie goalie does the job in his first big league game. Rock Road has that and more in this morning's sports report.
And good morning. Well, if the latest trend continues, the Giants may be forced to bring Ray Hanley back. For the second time, a prospective head coach says thanks but no thanks to the boys in blue. Yesterday, Cowboy defensive coordinator Dave Wannstedt officially became the new head man for the Chicago Bears.
When you encompass the entire situation, and it all starts at the top, it all starts with the organization, you need to surround yourself with people that are committed, not for tomorrow, but for the future. And you add that to, as I mentioned earlier, to the tradition of the Bears and to the attitude of the people in Chicago. You add that with the talent on this football team, and it was an easy decision.
Wannstedt reportedly also chose the Bears over the Giants so he didn't have to coach against the Cowboys and longtime boss Jimmy Johnson. So it's back to square one for the Giants. Well, a Ranger rookie with a memorable pro debut last night in Detroit. Goalie Corey Hirsch went against the potent Red Wings and earned some big-time respect. The 20-year-old, just up from Binghamton, looked a little nervous before the game, but once it started, He looked like an old pro, stopping former Ranger Ray Shepard here on this try in the first period. More to come. Second period off the steal. Watch this. Hirsch shows his skills again. Stopped Steve Eiserman point blank, not once, but twice on the same play. Third period, Detroit with a man advantage up 2-1, but here came Darren Turcotte to score the shorthanded goal with just over 6 minutes left in regulation. We go to overtime. Hirsch proving he wasn't through as he turns back Fedorov to secure the tie. 2-2 the final as a young Ranger passes a big twist last night with 30 saves. At the Coliseum, the Islanders went looking for their third straight victory. In the third, Boston led 2-1 until Tom Curvers beat rookie goalie John Blue. Now, the Isles had a big chance to win it near the end of regulation, but Blue came up big, blocking the shot by Steve Thomas off of his face mask. 2-2 the final score. The Islanders remain 4 points behind the Rangers in the Patrick Division. In Big East hoops last night at the Meadowlands, Seton Hall and Villanova battling into overtime as well. The Pirates had to go without big man Luther Wright, who was out with a concussion. But in the first half, it was the Hall's Chaka Ship picking up some of the slack as he came in big here for the Monster Jam. At the end of regulation, Pirates came so close to winning it right here. Karnišović with the steal, threw up a shot that almost goes in at the buzzer. Well, in overtime, Seton Hall would not be denied as displayed here. Terry DeHare's baseline try would not go, but they banged the boards, and it would finally be Jerry Walker who put it up and in. PJ's Pirates win it 66-61. And finally, another upset at the Australian Open yesterday as Yvonne Lendl falls victim to Christian Bergstrom of Sweden. It marked the first time in a decade Lendl drops a first-round match in a Grand Slam event. Top seeds Monica Seles and Jim Courier won both their second-round matches last night. I'm Rock, and that's your sports this morning.
And you're probably saying, geez, it's been days since we've had an Elvis story. Well, in those What'll Those Wacky Elvis Fans department, here, try this one on.
We told you all about the new Elvis stamp when it was announced. Then we speculated on who might be the first in line to buy one.
You can't come around. At least please telephone.
And then they finally went on sale. So what's new? Fans are using the new Elvis stamps to mail letters to non-existent addresses so they'll come back marked.
Get it? Well, anyway, I think it all proves some Americans have too much time on their hands. But they're really doing that.
They are.
And I know a person in our building who's been doing it for a couple of weeks.
Wouldn't be Jay.
Ah, those wacky Elvis
Jay?
fans. Well, what can I say? That was right, Lisa? Okay, yes.
Oh,
It's a rather...
no Elvis imitations, please.
No, I would never stoop to that. Anyway, let's get to the traffic. In Queens, the northbound side of the Van Wyck, a bit slow as we head on in through the Kew Gardens. Just the normal volume there. Grand Central Parkway coming in through the St. John's University area. LIE moves well in through Queens. As we head on over to the FDR Drive, the normal volume coming in through that construction zone around the Teens. The lower East River crossings moving very nicely. So far, so good on the Hudson River crossings. Stalled vehicle in the Bronx on the southbound Bruckner around 138th Street, and alternate side of the street parking rules are suspended. Let's go over to Craig Allen.
Oh, boy. What an act to follow. Temperatures across the area this morning are cold, but not quite as cold as yesterday morning. We have a wind chill to deal with, too. So, again, it's the gloves and the scarves. And if we take a look at this satellite photograph here, you're going to notice, as if we knew that it had to be sunny on Inauguration Day. It will be this year. Look at that slot of clear sky covering much of the Northeast, Washington, D.C. included. But obviously, you see a lot of cloudiness there, and eventually that will be headed this way. Forecast for today? Not today. Bright sunshine. Highs up around or a little over 40. Tonight, we will drop back down to below freezing, 20s in most of the suburbs. Next 5 days, well, there's the increase in the clouds during Thursday. Friday, we have a chance of rain. Mild enough for rain. Saturday and Sunday, temperatures still somewhat above normal. Lisa, Maury?
And it's supposed to be fairly mild in Washington today, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. The week started off cold, but I think they'll climb above 40 degrees as well.
Yeah, and still Jay will not be singing at the inaugural.
Thank God.
1992 turns out to be a mixed bag for business. Booming for some banks, but a bust for Big Blue.
And Bill Clinton's inauguration prompts the call for a European finance meeting. Business News is next. 22 minutes after 6 o'clock now, time to check this morning's business news. 1992 was a very good year for the nation's major banks, with Chemical, Chase Manhattan, and Citibank among those reporting higher than expected fourth quarter earnings. Banking industry analysts say troubles from bad real estate loans in the 80s are finally subsiding. For IBM, however, 92 brought the worst annual financial loss in U.S. corporate history, nearly $5 billion. As Big Blue goes through massive restructuring, its stock has declined to the lowest level in 18 years to $48 a share. Now, Eastman Kodak continues to struggle as well. It plans to lay off 2,000 workers, mostly at its Rochester headquarters, as well as cut back research and development. The company hopes to save $200 million this year. And this morning, a top European community official is calling for a special meeting of the finance ministers of the 7 leading industrial nations, the meeting to discuss the Clinton administration's economic strategy. Taking a look now at worldwide financial markets, they're certainly not showing too much excitement over Clinton's inauguration. In Tokyo, the Nikkei lost 288 points to close down 1.75%. The dollar was down against the yen. In London, stock prices were also lower in early trading. London gold opening 35 cents an ounce higher from yesterday's close in New York. On Wall Street, a late round of selling pushed blue chips lower. The Dow lost nearly 19 points to close at 3255.99. Bond prices did rise in anticipation of a new Clinton administration, 30-year treasuries yielding 7.30%. And speaking of celebrating, you could say Anheuser-Busch is swallowing up the competition. The world's largest brewer set an all-time industry record by selling nearly 87 million barrels of beer last year. Miller Brewing Company is second in U.S. market share, with Coors a distant third.
And on the entertainment page this morning, the film Aladdin was #1 at the weekend box office.
That tops our center stage report for this morning, as Disney's magical musical appears to be headed to become the most successful animated film of all time.
Aladdin earned $10.9 million over the 3-day holiday weekend to knock A Few Good Men down to the second spot. The new survival story, Alive, earned $8.6 million to come in third. Jean-Claude Van Damme's Nowhere to Run opened in fourth. Madonna's Body of Evidence came in fifth, despite getting roundly panned by the critics, including our own. Scent of a Woman, The Bodyguard, Forever Young, Home Alone 2, and Chaplin rounded out the top 10. Now, Van Damme's new action feature did well, as we said, opening fourth at the box office. Entertainment editor Dennis Cunningham tells us if we should run to see Nowhere to Run.
I am in search, personally, of the new true movie action hero, so I thought I'd give this Jean-Claude Van Damme a shot. Remember, people once laughed long and loud at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, they did. And at Sylvester Stallone. Well, actually, they're still doing that. True. Steven Seagal has been box office lucky recently, but he's not the guy, not at all. Nor is Chuck Norris or Dolph Lundgren or Brandon Lee or many recent but already forgotten ones like Brian Bosworth, for example. We need a new true movie action hero, and now, with Jean-Claude Van Damme in Nowhere to Run, no.
Where are you from?
Quebec.
What do you do there?
What difference does it make?
No, this doesn't seem much like an action movie, does it? But it's the sort of action movie Nowhere to Run is way too often. Now, most action fans, of course, will be yearning for sequences like this. But far too often, they'll be getting the sensitive, romantic kickboxer and the widow, Rosanna Arquette, and her children being driven off the land by a ruthless real estate developer and his goons. Trouble is, the goons are far more interesting than Jean-Claude, except for the few times when he's not pretending to be an actor.
Also, that's why they call it a headlight. Did you know that? Actually, Van Damme's alive only when he's doing that sort of stuff, and quite frankly, he's not all that alive even then. True, this movie called Nowhere to Run is amusing because it's trying to be so high-toned. It actually is, but then again, it doesn't mean to be amusing, so the movie's final 2 is for some stray, extraneous pleasures, though I dare you to find them, actually.
Ooh, Dennis didn't like that one either.
Oh, he's on a negative roll.
Yeah. Jay, how's
Speaking
traffic?
of nowhere to run.
Yes.
Traffic
Nowhere to drive, actually. Southbound Bruckner, some delays coming in through 138th Street because of a stalled vehicle. Not much, really. Southbound Deegan, a little bit of volume as we head on in through Fordham Road, but then a pretty nice ride through the George Washington Bridge down in through the Triborough Bridge this morning. So far, so good on mass transit, and it is Wednesday. Alternate side suspended. Craig Allen is in the Channel 2 Weather Center. Craig?
All righty, Jay. And what we have across the area right now is a clear sky and cold temperatures for the most part. Let's look at those readings right now in Central Park. And you will see that our temperature is currently 28 degrees, the relative humidity 55%, and a little westerly breeze at 7 miles per hour, but just enough to make the wind chill feel like it's 20. A cold day coming up, or to start, and then getting a little bit milder this afternoon with sunshine. We should be up near 40, and a full 5-day forecast will be coming up too. Lisa, Maury?
All right, Craig.
All right,
thanks.
Craig, we'll take today. The White House gets new residents today, and the nation's capital celebrates.
Woody and Mia arrive at a partial custody settlement, and Katie Beers reveals graphic details about her captivity. We'll have these stories and much more coming up next. Good morning to you on this Wednesday, January 20th, Inauguration Day. I'm Lisa Rudolph.
And I'm Maury Alter, and these are the stories topping our news this morning. The future of Katie Beers gets discussed today at a custody hearing. And at the same time, the indictment against John Esposito expected to be unsealed.
Woody Allen will now get to see his son Satchel following an agreement with Mia Farrow. In a partial settlement, the couple's adopted daughter Dylan will resume therapy. A gala party in Washington, D.C. last night in honor of President-elect Bill Clinton. A star-studded group celebrated with Mr. Clinton on the eve of his inauguration.
Plus, we've got Craig Allen, who has the latest on the weather, and Jay Trelease with the traffic. Jay.
Well, so far a pretty quiet morning. Normal delays building in Queens, but it is Wednesday. Alternate side suspended. Lisa, Maury?
In just a few hours, President-elect Clinton will have the word elect removed from his title.
At noon, he will be sworn in as our country's 42nd president. On his last night as a private citizen, he attended a gala event in his honor. Barbra Streisand was among the performers at the party at the Capitol Center. Michael Jackson also entertained the crowd of several thousand, which paid $100 to $1,000 just to be there. Despite the big-name stars, though, the man who got the biggest ovation was the president-elect himself.
I will begin a journey that I hope will be our journey. I will do my best to be faithful to your trust, and I hope always, to the end of all of our days, you will all be very proud that you were here this evening and part of this week.
Afterward, the Clintons joined a reunion of the group Fleetwood Mac and sang the theme song of his campaign, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow.
Well, earlier in the day, the president-elect visited the burial site of his political heroes. Surrounded by 20 members of the Kennedy family, Mr. Clinton visited the graves of John and Robert Kennedy. In an exclusive CBS interview with Dan Rather, Mr. Clinton had some pretty tough words for Saddam Hussein.
My view is that it is almost inconceivable that we can have good relations with Iraq with him there, because he has given no indication that he is capable of being a reliable member of the community of nations.
Mr. Clinton says he will not change U.S. policy toward Iraq.
In Baghdad, Saddam Hussein is offering what appears to be an olive branch to the president-elect, but the Pentagon says vigilance will not be relaxed on this inauguration day. Now, here's the latest on the Gulf crisis. Saddam has called for a ceasefire on Allied planes in the contested no-fly zone. This a gesture of goodwill toward the incoming Mr. Clinton. But Pentagon sources say U.S. planes will continue to fly surveillance missions in both northern and southern Iraq, while the United Nations says it will resume its weapons inspections in Iraq. That could be somewhat risky, but the head of the UN inspection team says he has received assurances from Baghdad that UN planes would be safe in Iraqi skies.
That would mean that we can start our flights as soon as we in the Commission deem it feasible.
UN inspectors are responsible for finding and destroying Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. And up until now, Saddam has stubbornly refused to allow them open access to possible weapons sites. UN inspectors could get back to work by tomorrow. Lisa?
In other news, for only the second time since last summer, Woody Allen and Mia Farrow have met face-to-face.
And last night's meeting produced a partial deal in their custody battle. Carol Iavana reports.
Woody Allen and Mia Farrow were together again, and perhaps for the first time have reached some small agreement. Allen has agreed to give up seeking visitation rights with his 2 adopted children, including 7-year-old Dylan, whom Allen is alleged to have sexually abused. But in return, Farrow has agreed to make sure that Dylan gets psychological help. In a statement, Allen said, "As much as I miss my little girl, I feel it's overwhelmingly in her best interest that she be allowed to get the psychological help her mother has withheld from her."
As far as you're concerned, the case is still ongoing, right?
Yes, the case is still ongoing.
Allen will have some visitation rights, however, with his son Satchel. It was just last week that Allen appeared at a court hearing in which Farrow's attorneys alleged that Allen had shoved Dylan's face in a plate of hot spaghetti and that Allen had sex with Mia's daughter, Sunyi Previn, with Dylan watching.
Did she see you have sex with Sunni?
You must be joking. What a foolish question. Of course not.
That experience may have prompted Allen to give up seeking visitation, since he would have had to appear at another court hearing next week.
I think Mr. Allen is not anxious to testify under oath at this time.
Allen is still being investigated by Connecticut State Police. Farrow has alleged that he sexually molested Dylan. While both sides agree this is a victory for the children, neither side is claiming victory in the case because the custody battle will continue. In New Haven, Connecticut, I'm Carol Iavana, Channel 2 News.
For a while yesterday, it looked as though a mistrial might be called in the Glen Ridge sexual assault case. Instead, Essex County Judge Benjamin Cohen held a closed-door hearing and decided to dismiss 2 of the 15 jurors on the case. One had been accused of leading others in prayer for the alleged victim. The second reportedly talked about the case with her pastor. The 4 defendants, former athletes of Glen Ridge High School, are accused of sexually attacking a mentally impaired young woman back in 1989.
In another highly publicized case, there will be a custody hearing today in Suffolk County regarding the future of Katie Beers.
And on the same day, the indictment against the man accused of keeping her in a dungeon will be unsealed, detailing her harrowing experience. John Slattery has that story.
For John Esposito, it was a very brief 2-minute appearance in court. Bail was continued at $500,000, and the prosecution announced an indictment.
Grant your return to true bill under indictment number 150 of 93.
While the contents of the indictment are officially secret when Esposito is arraigned, the Associated Press quotes an unnamed source who claims to have seen the testimony Katie Beers gave police hours after her release. According to the AP, Esposito handcuffed and chained Katie beginning 2 days after the abduction because she had been banging on the ceiling of the underground dungeon. She told Esposito she was sick and had to see a doctor, but Esposito told her to wait. At one point, Esposito told her he was going to hang himself and leave a note on him so people could find her. Esposito started kissing her and fondling her. He touched her sexually. He gave her food once a day. As for the tape recording a crying Katie made in captivity, she says she first recorded one to her godmother, Linda Ingaleri, saying Esposito had her. But when Esposito heard it, he made her re-record it, and she started to cry. But what Esposito's attorney spoke of was not Katie's suffering, but that of his client.
He's suffering from a great deal of mental anguish. He looks very tired, withdrawn. He's lost some weight. He's suffering from a great deal of depression, remorse.
Esposito is being held in the county lockup in Riverhead.
He is being isolated, being in protective custody, which means he's in a cell by himself. He spends 23 hours a day alone in that jail cell. He only leaves to take a shower.
Portions of Katie Beers' graphic testimony may be read in open court as John Esposito is arraigned on what's expected to be kidnap, sexual abuse, and other charges. In Central Islip, John Slattery, Channel 2 News.
In the How Are They Doing With My Money department, New York City is now trying to keep $7 million from going up in smoke, but it could be too late. You see, the city bought 2 new fireboats recently, but they don't work. One boat leaks, the other has broken valves which keep it from fighting a fire while standing in place. The boats have no spare parts, and the city never got the repair manuals. City officials say this morning they just might sue the New Orleans company that sold them those boats.
Still on the subject of money, Governor Cuomo has now unveiled a new state budget with a whole lot of zeros in it, 9 to be exact. The governor's $59 billion budget plan calls for cigarette taxes to go up by 21 cents to 60 cents a pack, the highest in the country. It also raids $516 million from a fund set aside to pay for transportation projects, and it scraps planned cuts in personal income and business taxes. But there is some good news. Under the plan, New York City transit fares would hold at $1.25 through 1995. Cuomo had invited lawmakers to step forward if they had better ideas for closing an estimated $3.7 billion budget gap. So far, no one has.
Here's the man I want to resolve my budget problem, Jay Trelease, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing with the traffic?
Yes. Some problems in Queens. The southbound Whitestone Expressway backed up 1 mile coming in through that Van Wyck. We have a stalled vehicle there. That's causing that delay. And don't forget, we've got that northbound delay on the Van Wyck. You notice I say Van Wyck, Van Wyck, because it's very controversial. You have to use both. Northbound Van Wyck coming in through the Kew Gardens. Also heavy. Grand Central Parkway doing that St. John shuffle in through that University construction zone. LIE really not too bad this morning. As we check out Brooklyn, we've got some problems. The normal volume developing on the inbound Gowanus, the northbound side of the BQE, heavy from the Gowanus right on up through the Brooklyn Bridge. We got a stalled vehicle there causing that very, very substantial delay. So far, so good here at the lower East River crossings. No reported delays at the Hudson River crossings. Mass transit on time, alternate side, suspended. Craig Allen, Channel 2 Weather Center.
All right, good morning, Jay. I'm just listening to some interesting conversation about astronomy and stuff like that. Anyway, we have the presidential inauguration today, and I thought you might be interested in this to take a look and see what has happened since January 20th. You know, not all inaugurations were held on January 20th. That's just within the last 30, 40 years or so. The coldest was back in '85, the warmest was in 1989, and you could see that it didn't rain on too many inauguration days. Snow flurries, only in 1969, and this satellite photograph is going to show that it is in the clear, the Washington, D.C. area once again today, so it should be a nice one. And our forecast is a pretty good one, too. It's calling for highs up around or a little over 40 with bright sunshine. And then tonight, we're dropping back down to just under freezing in the city, but 20s in the suburbs. Sunset as late as 4:59 now. We have a chance of rain getting in here about Thursday night or Friday with mild readings, and then partial clearing at least for Saturday. Right now in the city, it is currently 28 degrees. Lisa, Maury?
All right, Greg.
We didn't know if we wanted to see.
Yeah, what radio stations are you listening to?
You don't want to know what we were talking about.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Keep it a secret. Coming up later, the St. Patrick's Day Parade could be getting yet another sponsor.
And in sports, a new face on the ice. Well, actually in goal. The Rangers' newest rookie shows his stuff. Do stay with us.
Well, if you ride New York City subways, you may not think so, but they are getting safer. The transit police say violent crime in the subways dropped by more than 16% in November, the 26th straight monthly drop. And efforts to stop fare beaters also seem to be working. Paying customers were up nearly 9% at stations where fare beating patrols have been stepped up. New York City's water is also safe, but the Environmental Protection Agency warns it may not stay that way unless steps are taken to safeguard it. The EPA is giving New York City 1 year to build a water filtration system to clean upstate reservoirs. The agency also wants the city to buy land around the reservoirs to keep them safe from pollution and to stop using water from the Central Park Reservoir because it's too easy to contaminate. But the cleaner water comes at a cost. The tab for the filter system alone could cost $8 billion. Maury?
I knew there was a catch there. The Giants head coaching derby continues to whirl this morning in sports. Former Denver Broncos head coach Dan Reeves is now reportedly the frontrunner now that the Cowboys defensive coordinator Dave Wannstedt has chosen the Bears over our Giants.
When you encompass the entire situation, and it all starts at the top, it all starts with the organization, you need to surround yourself with people that are committed, not for tomorrow, but for the future.
In hockey, the rookie goalie Corey Hirsch is showing he's got a future with the Rangers, playing his first big league game. The 20-year-old Hirsch made some great saves as the Rangers and the Red Wings skated to a 2-2 tie in Detroit last night. In all, Hirsch made 30 saves. The Islanders and the Red Wings also finished with a 2-2 tie last night at the Coliseum. And talk about using your head. Bruin goalie John Blue used his face to block this shot. Lucky thing for Blue, someone came up with the idea of face masks. In college hoops, 10th-ranked Seton Hall beat Big East rival Villanova in overtime, 66-61. That's your sports.
And coming up, health problems could delay freedom for convicted killer Gene Harris.
And one of the most notorious reputed mobsters is nabbed on the run. Stay with us. Good morning to you. It's 6:48, 28 degrees. Do we have a nice day coming up for you as you view the World Trade Center? It's going up to 40 degrees and sunny today. And in the news, the group that received the permit to run the St. Patrick's Day Parade will meet tonight to decide whether or not to give the permit back. The city put the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee in charge of the parade, in part because it was going to allow gays to march. But yesterday, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, which traditionally runs the parade, ordered its members to boycott if gays are included as groups. Sources say the leader of the new group, Brooklyn DA Charles Hines, is feeling the heat from his decision to allow gays to march.
Updating now this morning's top stories, Saddam Hussein has an inauguration present for Bill Clinton, an olive branch in the form of a ceasefire. But the Pentagon says U.S. warplanes will continue to fly surveillance missions in both northern and southern Iraq. A custody hearing will be held later today for Katie Beers as the indictment against the man accused of kidnapping her is expected to be unsealed, revealing details of John Esposito's alleged sex abuse of the little girl. And in just a few hours, the nation's 42nd president will be sworn in. William Jefferson Clinton spent Inauguration Eve at a star-studded gala as Washington parties right up to the swearing-in ceremony.
And coming up, we're going to take a last look at traffic and weather. Get
Be
you off
right
to
back.
work.
A glittery shot of the Hudson River this morning, 28 degrees at 6:52. Back in the news now, federal authorities say he's one of the most brutal and ruthless mobsters alive. But this morning, Anthony Gaspipe Queso is behind bars after being arrested yesterday as he got out of the shower at a home in Mount Olive, New Jersey. Queso has been a fugitive since 1990, and although he was on the run, authorities say he still allegedly helped run the Lucchese crime family. Queso is named in a 67-count indictment charged with murder, conspiracy, extortion, and other crimes.
And convicted killer Gene Harris is scheduled to meet today with the State Parole Board, but her poor health could force a delay in that. Harris is at the Westchester County Medical Center, where her condition has been upgraded to good now, but the parole hearing could still be pushed back until her health gets even better. Harris is being treated for an apparent reaction to heart surgery she had last month. On the day of her operation, Governor Cuomo granted her clemency. Now the State Parole Board must decide on when Harris can become a free woman. And the Space Shuttle Endeavour is home safe this morning. Its 6-day mission ended with a touchdown yesterday at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. During the mission, the astronauts launched a communications satellite, and they also practiced spacewalking. The next shuttle mission is scheduled for late February. And they also experimented with that zillion-dollar toilet, which worked out just fine, and I know you all wanted to know that.
I know Jay did.
Yes, okay. As a traffic reporter friend of mine says, some days you hit the roads and some days they hit back, and that's what's happening right now. The westbound LIE closed at Willis Avenue. We've got a multi-vehicle accident there, some heavy delays from Glen Cove Road in through the closure site. So the westbound LIE closed completely at Willis Avenue. You want to opt for the Northern State, you know that's going to be very, very heavy very soon with alternate volume. South Shore looks pretty good. In Queens, we've got a pretty big delay happening now on the southbound Whitestone Expressway. Coming in through the Van Wyck, about a mile of heavy volume there caused by a stalled vehicle. Also the northbound BQE in Brooklyn heavy this morning. As we head on up through the Brooklyn Bridge, we got a stalled vehicle there as well. Now the southbound West Side Highway, this is kind of freaky. Heavy delays from the George Washington Bridge down through the 150s. Apparently there's a fire underneath the elevated roadway. The smoke is now coming up over the roadway, and that is causing some rubbernecking delays. Be careful as you drive through that area. Both your lungs and your visibility could be affected by that. FDR Drive, we've got some heavy delays coming in through the teens. We are seeing some volume now building at the inbound side of the George Washington Bridge. We're looking at a 10-minute delay. The inbound side of the Lincoln Tunnel, about 5. Inbound Holland, 5 to 10. Alternate side suspended this morning, and my good buddy Craig Allen in the Channel 2 Weather Center. Craig.
All right, thanks, Jay. And we are going to have ourselves a wonderful day around here. Third day in a row of sunshine. Temperatures getting milder than they have been, and even in Washington, D.C. as well. Let's take a look at this satellite photograph now, and you will notice that the cloudiness that's to the north of the city basically stays there. A lot of cloudiness to the south of the city, and a long, clear slot from about New York State on down to the Virginias, which is great for the inauguration this afternoon. So I thought it might be interesting if we take a look at this, and we'll notice that over the last several years, it's been about 50 years since we've had inaugurations on January 20th, 1985 was the coldest. It was 7 degrees midday, 49 degrees back in 1989, last inauguration. Not bad. And the only time it really snowed in the last 50, 55 years or so was some flurries back in 1969. Looks like a good day today for Washington and for New York City. The forecast, 41 degrees will be our high this afternoon with a lot of sunshine across the area. Tonight, we're going to drop back down to near or just under freezing here in the city. By the way, look at sunset, 4:59. We've gained about a half an hour at the end of the day now. The days are getting a little bit longer. By the way, temperatures will drop into the 20s in some of those suburbs. Now, the 5-day forecast, 44 for tomorrow with an increase in clouds, and there was a lot of cloudiness on that satellite picture, so some of that is going to get in here, let's say Thursday night and Friday. I would think right now we'll have some rain around here Friday. Could briefly start as freezing precipitation well north and west of the city Thursday night, then over to the rain on Friday, partial clearing Saturday, and Sunday right now, just another chance for a brief period of rain or snow. In the city right now, Lisa, Maury, it's 28 degrees.
All right, Craig, one thing. Frank Field called in. He said it was much colder at Lincoln's inauguration, and he was there.
And he knew
he
about
remembers.
it.
Okay, that's it for Channel 2 News this morning. I'm Maury Alter.
And I'm Lisa Rudolph. We'll be back throughout the morning with updates on local news, weather, traffic, and sports on CBS this morning, which will, of course, have special inauguration coverage. And don't forget, at 1 o'clock right here on Channel 2, we'll have an inauguration special.
And have a good day.
We'll see you back here tomorrow.